Welcome back to the Beaver Banter podcast. I'm Nick Daschel, and I cover Oregon State football and basketball for the Oregonian and OregonLive. The Beavers are on a bye this week, so we're going in a little different direction tonight. We'll talk about the Colorado game, but we're also going to have a special guest on the podcast, and we are all over the West Coast tonight. I'm in San Francisco. I'm here for tomorrow. The next couple days, I'm here for Pac-12 Media Day to hit up Oregon State. Joining us on the podcast is former Oregon State cornerback Kyle White. Welcome back, Kyle.
Thank you.
And then tonight we've got former Oregon State receiver Timmy Hernandez, who was Kyle's roommate at Oregon State for what, 1 year, 2 years? I'm not sure. How many years were you guys together?
About 2 years.
We were together for 2 years.
You know, I don't really know much about your relationship, other than I know Timmy told me that, he taught Kyle everything he knows about making pancakes. But what was that like? What was that like living together at Oregon State, playing football together?
Go for it, Timmy.
That was fun. It was we didn't know each other. We kind of we came in the same recruiting class in January from junior college, and kind of got thrown together, and made the most of it.
I assume you guys didn't know each other before you got to Oregon State, did you?
We were actually on the same official visit, but that was the first time we met.
Oh, who else did you guys have for roommates?
The Payne brothers. I knew them from high school.
Oh, okay. So there was four of you in your apartment or house, or?
Yeah, we were in one of the townhomes, kind of by Reeser. It was a good time. We had a good time while we were there.
Yeah. A long time ago, I did a newspaper feature with a former Oregon lineman he wrote a weekly diary for us in a newspaper. And the last one, he gave us a bunch of pictures, and one of them was, a bunch of beer cans stacked to the ceiling pretty much. And it looked like an apartment where football players lived. Well, I'm assuming your apartment was probably somewhere along the same lines, maybe not with the beer cans necessarily, but
we kept it pretty tidy.
Oh, you kept it tidy?
Yeah.
Ours was spotless.
Yeah. Did you guys spend a lot of time pretty much talking football, or was it a lot of other stuff going on when you lived together?
Yeah, I think if you get a bunch of football players like that living together, you can talk a lot of football. But other than that, we spent a lot of time playing video games with each other, going out for dinner and stuff, just being kind of college kids trying to enjoy it.
Yeah, there's a lot of video games, chilling in the living room, some football, and just hanging out. We went, so then we just met a whole bunch of people. So yeah, just college kids though. It was pretty fun though.
Timmy, you had the unique perspective of playing for Gary Anderson and Jonathan Smith. What was that like?
That was a unique situation there. We weren't really expecting that when Coach A left. Then so I played a year and a half under him, and then Coach Hall came in and kind of try to do what he wanted to do. And then a couple of weeks later, Coach Smith comes in, so I got to see a little bit of each one. And then also I had 3 receivers coaches in my 3 years there too. So I gotta see a lot of different things, gotta learn from a bunch of different people. I think everyone has their pros and cons. No coach is perfect, and no coach is can't bring anything to the table either. So I tried to really learn from everyone I had a chance to learn from, but I'm glad that we have Coach Smith. I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, I know the 2017 season was a rough one. What was your impression of when you played for Jonathan in 2018?
Yeah, that 2017 season is like it's like the no accidents on the whiteboard kind of thing. Every 3 weeks or so, I got to erase it and put 0 days since the last time someone's commented about the 2017 Oregon State football team. I think you've done that a handful of times in the last couple of months. I think I got on you about that. But when Coach Smith came in, it was a nice kind of change of scenery for everyone. And he came in, he was open and honest that he went to Oregon State, that he got married in Corvallis, and it was really kind of his dream job to come in there and be able to build the program. And I wish I would have had more time to play under him, but I knew when he brought those guys in that they were going to be able to turn this around, and they have done that.
I mean, the big thing that Jonathan preached from day one is building the culture. Did you see a lot of that in that first year? Building that culture.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that would go to Mike McDonald as well, because I think people forget how much time student athletes spend with the strength coach. From January to August, really, you spend much more time with your strength coach and strength staff than you do with your own position coaches or head coach. And so I think that was a big hire for Coach Smith, bringing Coach Mack with him down and just kind of trusting him to run the program he wanted to when it comes to weight training. And then when it comes to practice habits and stuff, obviously Coach Smith will come in, and then he's a really aggressive play caller. And as an offensive player, you love to see that as a coach who's going to trust you to try to make a play when you guys need one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's quickly touch on the Colorado game. Kyle, we knew the Buffaloes were bad, but just because the other team isn't very good doesn't mean it's always going to work out to be an easy one. And I mean, this one really was. What were your impressions of what you saw Saturday night?
I think from our conversation from last week, we sort of hit it like right on the coffin, just where we said, like, they're going to go over fundamentals. They're going to go over, scripting out and practicing what they need to practice, knowing that it's not a competitive game against the other team, but more so just trying to make sure that they have a great foundation and fundamentally. Martinez looked great. I mean, they ran the ball with him like no other. They made sure that he got all his confidence needed on top of, having that cornerback be able to throw and him having some confidence as well. So I think overall, like, defensively played pretty well. There were some rough moments. You have a couple of deep balls that got up to the red zone, but when you get a pick in the red zone and then you get a fumble in the red zone, I mean, it's pretty nice to see. But overall, offensively and defensively, I think we got a lot out of it and hit a lot of points of emphasis that we need to do for the next upcoming couple weeks after the bye week.
Timmy, do you get a chance to watch? Do you watch Oregon State every week or most weeks or?
Yeah, I do.
What did you see Saturday night from Oregon State in that Colorado game, particularly on the offensive side?
I think that was just a game that it went just as how it needs to go. If the direction of the program that we want to be is competing for a Pac-12 title, we face a team like Colorado at home. We all know their situation right now. They needed to be able to dominate Colorado from beginning to end, and they really did that. They could do whatever they wanted offensively, shut them down defensively, and that was pretty much the end of it right there. You don't want to spend too much time thinking about a team like that when you're trying to compete for a potential conference championship.
I mean, you guys were kind of in this situation a little bit in 2017 at times.
All right, there it is. Right there. 0 days since the last time.
I mean, does the other team try to take it easy at some point, or do you feel like it's sometimes they just try to really rub it in on a bad team like Colorado? Colorado's taken some beatings this year for sure.
Yeah, they have. No, I sometimes it's just, that's the way football goes. You watch two teams and, one team might be a little bit better than them in every position, and that little bit better on every single play results in a 42-9 win. And that's really what it is in football, is just those small victories on every play adding up. And, you like you said, we know all about that, but, I don't think you take it easy or anything on them. I think that if you have a good game plan going in and you are just a significantly better team, that you are going to do that. And that's what they did.
Yeah. Kyle, defensively, you're kind of the expert there. What did you see from Oregon State's defense against Colorado? I mean, for 3 quarters, Colorado really didn't do much anything. Most of their yards came in the fourth quarter, and I think they had 100 yards at halftime, and they had a couple of, they sustained a couple of drives, but nothing really spectacular. They had a lot of, I mean, the receivers dropped a lot of balls, and I don't know. What did you see?
No, yeah, I saw similar where, I mean, defensively, we played a lot of great coverage, came up with a couple interceptions, which is always nice. We corralled the quarterback a whole bunch, especially the first half. I feel like we sort of let up, but at the same time, like, it's not letting up when you're letting more people get time to play. So that's what I did like. So, I feel like in ways Coach Smith was adding in for next year. So, like, you see some people come out and you see new faces come in. But, we had interceptions, we had fumbles, we had turnovers, we had sacks. So, I mean, you can't ask for much more of your defense. I mean, rather than a what a pick. No, we already had a pick six. So yeah, truthfully honest, we got everything that we sort of needed from a defense and more. So I think overall they played as well as they needed to against, again, like Timmy and you were saying, a team that, just stands in the way of us having bigger hopes of a Pac-12 title instead of, just rather than playing around with the team, we just took care of business.
Yeah. What did you see on the Alex Austin pick, the pick six? What did you see on that play?
It was a cover two. So he actually played it very, very well. I loved everything about it. So from a cover two standpoint, what you normally want to do is put hands on one or the receiver in front of you. Either get them to go underneath you, or if you happen to put them over top of you, just push them out as far as possible. With him doing so, he sort of took himself out of the picture that the quarterback couldn't see, so he was able to undercut the pick. I mean, it was a great defensive play and great turnover and a great pick six. I mean, that was my favorite play from him all night, and it was a great play for him to just do that well. So I loved everything about it, though. It's a cover too.
Yeah. Timmy, the running game hit another gear Saturday night with Martinez. He's last three games he's clearly been a difference maker. Did you, the 1 year you played for Jonathan, did you sense that Oregon State was going to be a run first team? Because that's kind of what they've turned into.
I think that him and Lindgren both do a good job of not really necessarily having established identity themselves, but can make a playbook design based on the personnel that they have. And I think that that's where we're at right now. I think when we had Jake Luton in his senior year and he threw like 28 touchdowns with 3 picks, something like that, they let it air it out a little bit more, had Isaiah Hodgins and stuff. I think given our quarterback situation right now, I think both of those guys can be successful as game managers, but if you put the game on their shoulders, it's going to be difficult to sustain wins, and I think they recognize that. And until they get that settled, I think that they'll probably have that run first approach.
Was it any sort of a adjustment for the receivers at all to know that you were going to have to block more for Lindgren and Jonathan than maybe, I don't know, did you guys block as much with Anderson or did you, or was Jonathan a bigger emphasis on run blocking from the receivers?
It was similar rules. I played a lot more just outside solo receiver under Coach Smith, and so that meant that a lot of times when you had that cover four look, when the safety was coming down in the box, it was your responsibility to come down and crack them. And so, Coach Fentz does a good job of teaching us to kind of get in there, make sure you have good leverage, and if you can get that one-on-one with the running back in the corner on the outside, you'll take that every day with the backs that we have. Yeah.
I mean, I've heard several receivers this year that they're always talking about no block, no rock, and do you guys like blocking as receivers, or are you out there to catch passes?
Well, I think everyone will be honest that you like catching passes more, but it's good making blocks for your guys who are running down the field and you see them run by and run for a long touchdown or something. They're doing the same thing in pass protection for you, so it all works together.
In practice, did you and Kyle go up against each other at all?
Every day.
Yeah, all the time.
I was the better one.
It wasn't really a lot of run blocking, because you're not going to, crack someone on your own team in practice like that. But we like 1-on-1s and 7-on-7 and stuff all the time.
All the time.
Who is the better trash talker out there?
Timmy's more of a trash talker.
I'll take it.
I'm not much of a talker, so that boy Timmy loves to talk. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah, though. Yeah. I mean, I've watched I've been there for every camp since Jonathan's been there, and it seems like every year the secondary guys are getting cockier by the year. They've
earned it.
They know it, and they don't back off either. I mean, it wasn't too much the first year or two, but the last couple of years they let you know. So I don't know what it was like when you guys were playing though.
Hey, if you can back it up, talk all you want, and the way that the Beavs have been playing since really since Bray took over, I think that they've earned the ability to trash talk.
Yeah. Well, now comes the bigger question on this team is who's going to play quarterback. It's kind of a moot point if Chance Nolan isn't cleared from concussion protocol, but I suspect he's going to be cleared here before too long. And when that happens, who should start? My thought is I don't really know. I thought Gulbranson was going to win the job. If he went out and played well in these first couple games, he was going to win the job. But I don't know that he's better than Chance Nolan at this point. He's 3-0, but I don't know that he's better. Kyle, what have you seen from those two? And I mean, who would you start?
I mean, so when I look at it, I agree that they do have similar play level. But Gulbranson, the quarterback, been playing the last couple games. He's younger. I would probably start him over just because they already have similar experience. And they played evenly. But he's just the younger bat. He's the younger quarterback that you can sort of prolong longer, and you can help grow him into a better quarterback.
Timmy, what do you think? What have you seen from both of them? Who would you start?
I think that's a fair way to look at it. If you want to, if your goal here is to build around Ben for the future, then yeah, let him go, because I agree that the difference between the two isn't too much. If your goal is to win these next 4 games, give your the best chance to run the table here, I'd probably go with Chance, just because while they have played similar, I think that at their best, I think Chance has shown a little bit more than Ben has in terms of ceiling. He has had those moments where he'll throw a deep ball, and I have not seen Ben really kind of take that shot that, especially the Boise State game earlier in the year, Chance was really looking good. Similar in the Fresno game as well. And after that, it started to die down a little bit, but just having that in your back pocket and the defense is aware that you have that ability, I think is a big deal. And I think until Ben can show that he has that deep threat ability, I don't think anyone's going to respect it.
I kind of agree with you. I think Chance probably is the better guy, all things being equal, but his last 5 quarters were not good. Now, granted, it was USC and Utah, and I don't know where his confidence is. And then obviously he hasn't played in, almost a month. So there's a couple issues there. So I don't really know. Jonathan and Brian have a pretty big decision to make, I think, once Chance is cleared. And like I said, I don't know when that's going to be, but I suspect it's not season ending with him. So at some point, but I mean, if Ben keeps starting games, at some point you probably just got to keep going with him, especially if he stays, if they keep winning, you kind of got to go with the guy that's winning. So I don't know. So a few big picture things here. Oregon State's 6-2. They got 4 games left. At Washington on Friday, November 4th, Cal at home, Arizona State in Tempe, and then they finish the regular season with Oregon. Kyle, how many wins do they get among those 4?
Out of the last 4, I say I'm hoping for 3 of the 4. I think they go 3-1 for the last 4 games. And it's going to come down to the Civil War, where it's going to be that last loss or win.
Yeah, so you think they win? Which 3 you think? You think they get Washington, Cal, and Arizona State?
I believe they could take all 3 of those, and so we had like a full discussion about it this weekend, and we were trying to statistically put it all together, and the chances of us going to the Pac-12 championship. And basically, with Oregon being 6-1 at the moment, they'd have to lose before coming to us. And so if Oregon loses to Utah and then we can upset Oregon, we have a shot at it. But if Oregon beats Utah and we still we beat Oregon, they'll still make it. So, I mean, overall, I think that's going to be the biggest game of the season, like it always is. But this time it's that much greater because I think we're even, both teams, Oregon and Oregon State, finally.
I laid out the scenario earlier this week on the website about what Oregon State needs to do to get to the Pac-12 championship game, and it's a pretty tough road. They've got to have they got to get some breaks, and obviously have to win their last 4. But Timmy, how many wins do you think Oregon State gets out of these last 4?
I agree with Kyle. I think 3 is probably the goal here. Washington on the road, probably a coin flip. ESPN has us at only a 40% chance of making it. Cal should win that. ASU should win that. Get a loss in either one of those would really sting. And then at home versus Oregon, that'll be a tough one. I know everyone, including myself, wanted the dog on Oregon for that Georgia game, but watching what Georgia has done to every other team as well, I think this might be a little bit of just Georgia being that dominant compared to every other team in college football. And I don't know if we should really use that as a measuring stick for Oregon. They're looking good this year. Bo Nix has that offense going pretty well, and that's going to be a tough game. And if we do win those first 3, and we can go up against Oregon at 9-2, potentially we would need some help from everywhere else. But it could be a win, and we're in the Pac-12 championship. That would be, I think that would tell the rest of the Pac-12 that Oregon State is back on the map.
Right. My takeaway from Saturday was Oregon State's got 4 weeks to get this offense humming, because they're not going to grind out a win against Oregon. That's just not going to happen. They're going to need to score probably 35 to 40 points to win that game, even if the defense plays outstanding. I mean, Oregon's going to score, and Oregon State's going to need to score 35, 37, 40 points to win. Do you think they can do it? Do you think this offense do you think they got enough? Do you think their receivers are dynamic enough to make this happen? Start with Kyle.
It goes back to our previous conversations on our receiving core is not consistent enough catching the ball, where they're good players but not great when it's that small. There's just too many drops. And again, just like you're saying, yeah, we're not going to win the game if we can't score. Bo Nix is literally, he can run anywhere on the field and make the throws necessary. Their run game's great. Their receivers are really good. Their defense is pretty well. And so, yeah, it's going to be a rough one. And if our receivers can't, and quarterback especially, can't play lights out that game, it's actually going to be a rough game.
Timmy, what do you think of this receiving core?
I think they're actually really good. I think they get hated on a little bit too much for the drops when you look at some of the plays they've been making. And they've been getting open. And you look at that Utah game, Josiah was wide open on a 45-yard touchdown on 4th down that they missed him on. I think it was Gold had another one down the sideline on an out and up that he probably like a 65-yard, 7-yard touchdown if they can connect on that. I think it comes down to quarterback play versus Oregon, and that's why I want to start Chances, because you're not going, like you said, you're not going to win this game by trying to grind it out on the ground against them. They're going to score points on us, and I think Chance gives us the best opportunity there. And a game like this versus Oregon, I think it's very similar versus as it was versus Utah. And I think I got into a few discussions on Twitter about this, but people wanted them to run the ball more, and I didn't see a scenario where we beat Utah, or I didn't like our chances to beat Utah by trying to establish a run in that scenario. We needed to go out there and try to establish the pass that we could move the ball through the air. And unfortunately, that game we didn't do it. And because of that, it's going to look bad on the scorecard that we lost by however many points that we did. And you need to recognize the fact that trying to throw the ball against a team like Oregon versus Utah, it might increase your chances of getting a blowout loss, but it's going to give you the best chance to actually win the game. And I think that people get caught up too much on, rewarding us for those silver lining 7-point, 10-point losses versus a good team, as opposed to actually trying to win the game and recognizing that, this game plan, while also giving us the best chance to win, could fall back and potentially end in a blowout loss. And I do respect Coach Smith and Lindgren for coming out firing in some of these games in the air, knowing that and saying, hey, we're going to try to get these quarterbacks going, but because we know that we need them to win the game. And ultimately, that's what we need to strive for, is winning the game, not trying to prolong it as long as we can, not trying to keep it close, but to actually put the foot to the gas, get the offense going, because that's how we're going to beat Oregon, is that we need to get the offense going. We can't just try to run the ball, because they will, the way they've been playing right now, they're going to put points. Doesn't matter how great our defense has been playing. It's going to be a tough game if we can't throw the ball through the air, and it starts at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I mostly agree with you on that. I laugh at some of the fans a little bit when they start going into the, we need to run the ball more, Oregon State's gotta run, and there are some situations this year I thought Oregon State could have run a little bit more, but But I mean, you're right. That you in modern college football, you've got to throw the ball. You cannot grind out 12 and 13, 14 play drives consistently and win football games. You got to get some big chunk plays at some point, and you've got to get some short fields. You can't win games, going 12 plays, 80 yards 4 or 5 times a game. It just doesn't happen. So yeah, I'm with you on the passing thing.
If you're playing a team like last week with Colorado, or even the week before, where I felt like we were the better team by a good amount versus Washington State, in games like that, yeah, I think it's better to we can run the ball. Let's not risk it. Let's make them beat us. But versus Oregon, if we give them an opportunity to beat us, they're going to take it, and we need to be able to throw the ball and beat them. It can't be just this, try to play this no mistake-free football and go down the field inch by inch. It's just not going to work with a team like that.
Yeah, it's just kind of unfortunate that they don't have a guy like Luke Musgrave. He's the one guy that would really kind of put this whole thing together, I guess, because he's big, he's fast, and he just has the size that Oregon State doesn't seem to have right now. He's kind of like Isaiah Hodgins. That was a player that Oregon State didn't have the last couple of years either. Is that one guy that could go down the field, kind of post up and get a tough catch on third down, because they were so big and physical. But I don't know whether Musgrave's going to be back or not yet. I suspect not, but we'll see. It's possible, but
just having him on the field is adds so much versatility to offense, because he's like another receiver, but he's also like another fullback at the same time, because he can block so well. And you can go out in that 12 personnel, and it's almost like you still have 3 wide receivers on the field. So if the defense brings in that small package to try to stop Luke in the air, then you can kind of run it in the box still. And then if they do bring in the big linebackers, now you got a mismatch there with Luke being more athletic.
Yeah. Hey, Kyle, I know what I was going to ask. I've been wanting to ask you all season. I keep forgetting so as a defensive guy, you really don't see this a lot, but Jack Coletto, when he comes in on fourth down, 4th and 1, 4th and 2, all those 4th and 3rd down short plays, as a defense, what's coming. What do you do?
It's like funny because it's coming. Like even on TV, I watch it and I know it's coming. But the cool and funny thing about it is where he sits at. He has so many different offensive movements. He could bounce it to the outside. He could take it down the middle, left side, right side, inside zone, outside zone. So it's like everybody sort of just like nuts up, and it's like you got to be ready to go on a play that you thought you were going to be out. And, it's just back at the mentality, like this is another 2nd to 3rd down. And I have to think of it as that opportunity instead of this is 4th down. We're normally getting off the field. And then when you see Coletto, it's like, well, this guy is like over 50% chance of getting this. It's very frustrating that we just worked that hard and he's going to get it. So, when we were at Oregon State, we never actually played anybody like that. I mean, I think we had Christian McCaffrey one year at Stanford, where you're just like, this dude can run the ball. And when you give somebody that height, it's like it's not that they always will live up to that expectation. It's just like he's that guy, and he's gonna do what he came in to do. So yeah, it's just like you have to put your head down and be ready for it, because it's gonna be a dogfight anytime he comes in.
Yeah, I've had fans say, who's Oregon State going to recruit for their next Jack Coletto? And I go, they're not. He's a unicorn. Those guys don't exist. And you played with Jack one year, didn't you, Timmy? In 2018, he started at the Colorado game, if I remember right. And he wasn't the Jack Coletto we know now, but I mean. What was he? What do you remember about Jack? Just the year you played with him.
He wasn't as big as he is now. He kind of got a little bulkier as the season went on. But I think we started that actually. I want to say towards the end of the season that year is when we really started doing that the jackhammer stuff.
Yeah.
Because Jake came back after that Colorado game and was a starting quarterback, but every once in a while we would bring Jack in just to run it. but yeah, it's cool to see what he's become, because he was a little shy when he first got there, and then kind of grew up playing there, and then now he's doing everything he can. He started as a quarterback, move over to linebacker, move back a little bit to quarterback. Now it's fun watching him on the sideline on the TV. You see him come off the field, and then usually offense will go sit down, talk to their coaches, or defense will go down on their sideline, sit their coaches, and Jack is just sitting right there next to whoever, whichever coordinator or Kafense, when he's getting in the call from Lindgren, because Jack has to be there for whatever package is going in on offense or defense. He might get his number called.
Yeah. Jack isn't shy now. Jack likes being Jack Coletto. I know that. So one last thing, Oregon State, like I mentioned earlier, they're 6-2, 4 games left, a bowl game, long shot chance to get to the Pac-12 championship game. At this point, what is a successful season? What do you think a successful season is at this point, Kyle?
So, I mean, we went 7-5 last year, or
7-6,
7-6, including But I mean, I think Oregon State, for some reason, as fans and myself included, I think last year was just the start. So the expectations are a lot higher. I see at the least, and this sounds crazy to say, but like a 9-3. But realistically, I want an 8-4. I think realistically, an 8-4 season is a great season for Oregon State to finish at. But everybody wants the hopes and dreams of that 9-3, if not 10-2 season. So that's the goal. The expectations are 8-4, though.
What do you think, Timmy? What do you call a successful season at this point?
Anything less than 8 is, I think, unacceptable at this point for the expectation. I think that Cal game, that ASU game, those got to be wins. After that, Washington's going to be tough on the road. Oregon will be tough, assuming the bowl game, whoever we play. Who knows how bowl games are a little crazy. So I think if we beat Cal ASU and we still finish 8-5 or 8-6 after 8-5 after the bowl game, I think that's still a successful season. Now, we win one of those Washington Oregon games, win the bowl game, we get to 9 or 10. I think that's incredibly successful, and we'll see what that can do for our recruiting class, and going forward in the future to see if that can spring us forward to taking the next step.
Yeah, I kind of think 8-5 is the bare minimum now. I mean, Oregon State's got to win at least two of these last 5 games, and I would think probably 3 or 4, but. We'll see how this goes. I mean, Oregon State's only had 2 10-win seasons in program history. I mean, this is really a chance to make some history this season. So we'll see what happens. Well, anyway, that's all the time we've got for this week's edition of the Beaver Banter podcast. You can find this podcast wherever you look for your favorite podcast. Be sure to check out OregonLive for all our Oregon State content. We'll be back next week to talk about Oregon State's next game, a Friday nighter in Seattle against the Washington Huskies. We'll see you next week.